Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm going to help you understand Steelrising's basics, all things attributes in Elden Ring format. If you enjoy this content or if this helps you out at all, please go ahead and give it a like. If you do have any feedback or tips to add to it, go ahead and drop them out in the comment section below. And if you're not already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you get notifications every single time I upload content. Now, if you are ready, let's go ahead and get right into the video. So, attributes. The attributes are pretty much the exact same thing as in Elden Ring. They are what levels up your character. They are what changes your build or promotes your build. And they are pretty much what helps you play in the specific way that you want to play. Now, what is Anima Essence? Anima Essence is actually the runes or souls of what you call them. You sometimes do pick up little things kind of like those golden runes. They're called lesser essence, and those things also give you more anima essence. Now let's go ahead and talk about what the actual attribute menu looks like. So looking at the attribute menu, you see here we have a bunch of different hexagons going on and a bunch of different stats. I'm going to break these down for you very easily. So what you do see here are Aegis, attack, and defense down in the bottom section. Aegis is just going to be pretty much your character, your body, and those kinds of things. Now, when it comes to attack, this is going to be like your attack power from Elden Ring. In addition to that, it also kind of includes some of your elemental power. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. And then finally, that third part is that defense, which is spelled very weird. But look, this is Paris. That's going to be your defense power. And also the body, which is, we're going to talk about that a little bit later as well. Now, let's get into actually talking about how these attributes can change certain things. These 6 attributes that you see above that section down below, they all have multiple effects on these little stats down below. And I just want you to remember that whenever you're building out your character and actually your build. So moving forward into that, you can see up in there, right next to the attribute, you can go ahead and see that there is the level and then the green arrow that changes what the level is going to. So obviously if you're on level 1, you're going to level 2 if you put essence into that category. Now moving forward from there, you can also see that right below that it has the cost to improve, which is basically just the runes or the essence that it takes for you to improve. The one in parentheses is how many essence you actually have and that you can put into it. So for instance, if it costs 1,000 to improve something, then you can go ahead, if you have 2,000, you can improve something twice. In that instance, the levels do also multiply as you kind of go up, just like Elden Ring. So there's also that. You can see your actual body level in the center of that little weird circle of hexagons. Now to continue going on, I want to get into talking about the actual specializations of the game. So the specializations are kind of like in Elden Ring when you have your strength, your dexterity, then your faith, intelligence, arcane, those kinds of things. So what those looks like here are going to be all 3 of the sections on the left side. So that's your power, your agility, and then your elemental alchemy. The power is going to be your strength. Your agility is basically kind of like your dexterity. And then your elemental alchemy is basically your faith, your intelligence, your arcane. That's what that's going to look like. Next, I'm going to go ahead and break down all of these attributes into Elden Ring form just perfectly for you. So power is going to be your strength. Also attached to that is an impact, which impact is pretty much the damage of staggering that you do whenever you hit an enemy. So basically that looks like if you have 103 impact, that much damage or that much stagger damage is going to actually do to that enemy, which kind of knocks him back just a little bit. In addition to that, you then have durability, which is kind of like your vigor, which gives you, your HP. Also, it has a stat of balance, which is equivalent to poise in Elden Ring. So how much poise you have before you get stun locked or staggered. The next thing we have is your vigor, which is going to be your endurance and your crit damage multiplier. Now, it is a little bit weird because it is endurance, but also on top of that, that critical hit multiplier is once you knock an enemy, or once you stun lock an enemy, that critical hit multiplier is what's going to then add more damage to that critical attack, if that makes sense. So that's also kind of built into vigor, which is pretty nice. So the next attribute I want to talk about is engineering, which has kind of a 3-part into it. It's going to be your discovery, your affliction, which is that arcane, intelligence, and faith we talked about, and then also your armor. So what engineering looks like is going to increase your loot multiplier, which is that bottom stat up under Aegis, which is basically how well, loot drops for you. Addition to that, then it has that affliction multiplier, which you can see in the center under attack. That's where you get this chance to see you know, how much more damage that affliction will be doing. If you don't have a weapon with certain affliction on it, you won't see much more damage. But like I said, that's that arcane, that intelligence, of that faith, the magic builds, or, you know, your faith builds and your blood bleed builds, those kinds of things. The last but not least, we're going to see certain amounts of physical damage, which is mostly like your armor as well, and baked into all of that. So that's going to be an engineering perk. Very specific. Whenever you are checking out the engineering perk to upgrade it, go ahead and see how it changes per weapon, because that way you can be more sure about, you know, whether it's going to help your build out or not. Now I want to talk about the elemental alchemy, which we've already talked about a bit. It is going to be that arcane, that intelligence, that faith. So pretty much just like you have in Elden Ring, where you have those bottom three attributes, those bottom three attributes are kind of combined into one overall attribute that you can level up, and then based on your individual weapon, it will get certain amounts of damage. So for instance, if you look at the screen right now, you can see flame damage. I have flame damage at 0, and you can see right there that that's because that's the alchemy damage. I don't have my alchemy leveled up at all. Now, to continue with that attribute as well, it also increases your defense when it comes to your affinity resistances, which on Elden Ring you can see is that magic, fire, lightning, and holy defense power up under that stat. With elemental alchemy, we do know in Elden Ring that's your arcane, your intelligence, and your faith. However, the elements that they have in Steelrising is going to be your flame, your frost, and your fulmination. So flame, fire, frost, ice, or freeze damage, and then fulmination is going to be your lightning damage, kind of like your holy and your lightning kind of mixed up into one. Now, your agility stat is going to actually be that dexterity. We already talked about it a little bit, but in addition to that dexterity, you're also going to have immobilization, which the immobilization is that diamond gauge that you see when you're attacking an enemy before they're stun locked. Once it fills up, then you'll be able to go in for that critical attack. So those were the attributes to buff up your character. Now I want to talk a little bit about how those attributes work with the weapon characteristics. So first thing you need to know is the weapon characteristics in this game scale from A to F, which is different than Elden Ring, which scales S down to E. Now, it's the same thing, exactly the same thing when it comes to the builds. Like I've already told you before, you can see on the screen right now, under the characteristics, you see either your physical attack or your frost or whatever the case is, and that damage. Up under that, then you see the 3 different specializations. So again, the power, agility, and alchemy, which is your strength, dexterity, and then that faith, arcane, intelligence combined. Now, what that looks like is whenever you build out your build with your strength, or whether you're an agility build or whichever one, you'll see how those stats stack up and give you bonus damage when it comes to your weapons. After that, down at the bottom of the characteristics, you get a special move, whether it's shielding or blocking, or whether it's some sort of affinity or something like that. You'll have a special move down there. In that little box down there with the special move, depending on whether you're doing shields or actually doing an attack, you'll see a handful of different attributes on the right side. Move cost is going to be the cost that it requires you to perform that special move, which comes out of your alchemical capsules, which are down. Now, the alchemical capsules are essentially FP in Elden Ring, except these are actually numbered and they don't recharge with, for instance, a flask. These you pick up from enemies as they drop. You might run out of alchemical capsules, meaning that you will not be able to perform that special move if it costs. So for instance, if you have 5 alchemical capsules and the move cost is 2, you can perform 2 of those special moves before you need to find more alchemical capsules. From there, you might see impact with that stagger damage. You also might see immobilization, which is once again that stun lock damage. You might see infusion, which is the length of the buff time for that affinity. For instance, let's say in Elden Ring, you have a weapon and you have some type of grease to put on. The length of that time that grease stays on is basically what the infusion is. If you have, let's say, a flame affinity, whenever you perform that special move, that special attack, that infusion is going to last on your weapon for instance, 80 seconds. Now, what that infusion is doing, while you have infusion on your weapon, if you attack in any other way without that special move, that is going to be your infusion damage. So for instance, if you have an infusion damage of 24, if you go ahead and perform just a regular light attack or heavy attack, that infusion damage is going to be added on top of that actual physical damage that you are doing. Today, I hope I helped you out to be able to understand some of these terms and Elden Ring terms, so that way you can go ahead and get into game and become pros. If you enjoy this content, go ahead and drop a comment down below if any of these things helped you out. If you have any additional feedback to provide, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. You're on a road to 100 subscribers. I really appreciate you guys. Go ahead and watch this video right here of me breaking down the good, the bad, and ugly in 10 easy, quick hints for you. I really appreciate you guys being here. Have a beautiful goddamn day, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.